Welcome back, friends. The crisis of the family. In our time, the family is undergoing an unprecedented attack. Marriage rates have plummeted, though I know Brad Wilcox, he has good data showing that trend is turning around. So I will be happy to bracket some of that, and that, but divorce rates do still remain high, even if it's stabilized. And many children grow up without the stable presence of both parents, and we know that's still true. Cultural forces demean the significance of marriage and family life, replacing them with transient relationships based on convenience or personal fulfillment. Economic pressures and ideological movements have further weakened the bonds that unite husbands and wives, fathers and children. The results are seen in the rise of loneliness, depression, and social fragmentation. And the crisis of the family is a crisis of civilization itself. Without the stabilizing, nurturing influence of the family, individuals and communities lose their way. So now we're going to come straight into more modern research. The crisis in fatherhood has received special attention from Catholic scholars and authors. As the University of at the University of Virginia and beyond, recent works have explored the deep wounds caused by the absent or passive father. Authors like David Shanton, his book Joseph's Way, The Call to Fatherly Greatness, that's in Ignatius Press, 2014, 11 years ago, emphasized the importance of modeling fatherhood on St. Joseph's virtues of humility, sacrifice, and steadfast love. Similarly, Father Gerald Murray has written powerfully in essays such as The Crisis of Fatherhood, Confronting Our Failure, published in the Catholic Thing, 2021, 4 years ago, highlighting the moral and societal collapse that follows from the abdication of paternal responsibility. Although not specifically Catholic, David Blankenhorn's influential book, Fatherless America, Confronting Our Most Urgent Social Problems, 1995, this has been on people's minds for some time, has been widely cited by Catholic thinkers, very true, for its sober assessment of the societal impact of widespread fatherlessness. These authors collectively argue that reclaiming the vision of fatherhood rooted in service, leadership, and love is essential for renewing both the church and the broader society.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when, mid 80s, 90s, when Daniel Moynihan, on the Democratic Party talked about the problem within at that point, which was it was still fairly localized to the African American community, where they were starting to see, and at the time that he pointed it out, I think in the late 60s, early 70s, they were still only at 25% fatherlessness. Right. So, I mean, he already saw it as a crisis back then. And by the time that these articles are being written, you probably already have at that point 70 to 75 to 80% fatherlessness there. And, hopefully the pendulum, like you said, has swung as far to that destructive element as it's going to swing. Hopefully, because now you have, if that's like 1969, 1970, that's all of my lifetime, right? Where people have been suffering this loss of parents through divorce. They are the ones who have really been wounded and injured and are finally able to start articulating about how painful divorce actually is and what the long-term consequences and scars are that exist in the hearts and souls of those children who were told their whole life, oh, no. If your parents are happy, then you're going to be happy. Well, no, as it turns out, if the child is happy, the parents can deal with it. Right? I mean, like, really, the needs of the adults need to be subject to the needs of the children. Right. And that means that as an adult, you're supposed to be an adult. And that means that you keep your mouth shut instead of arguing, that you do like, there's a lot of different things that no fault divorce brought in just an absolute destruction where people at the smallest whim, followed their own fancies to the great destruction, not only of the children, because I think that it is not, you can't harm the family without a monstrous flesh wound to everyone who is in it.
That's right. That's
And I
right.
think maybe it's even Brad Wilcox who had the statistics that where he said that if you go 5 years out from a crisis point, right, where one couple divorces and the other couple stays together, invariably 5 years out from that point, the couple that stayed together and the couple who divorced, the couple who stayed together are happier, right? They made it, right? And that is almost universally true from every crisis point. When you get to that crisis point, the couple that breaks up and the couple who stays together, each consecutive 5 years out, the couple who stays together is doing better. Their family is doing better. Their children are doing better because, I mean, let's be honest, like you eventually, if you keep wearing a shoe that gives you a blister, eventually the skin's going to toughen up. And what used to bother you, excuse me, please, bother you in that shoe is not going to bother you anymore, right? I mean, you just learn to live with the idiosyncrasies of the person that you engaged with in marriage. When you have to stay, you learn how to adapt. And we say this, Karen and I say this without any hesitation. We are not talking about extreme cases of abuse. No one ever has to live in an abusive situation. But in the same way that in Planned Parenthood, people who have abortions, the vast majority of them are not for reasons of health of the child or health of the mother, right? These are strictly personal decisions that they're making. If you remove people just walking away from something because they're not quote unquote happy, well, that's an entirely different thing from somebody who is being physically or even mentally or manipulated, verbally. Like, those are not the points that we're making here.
That's right. Okay. Let us pick up in the next episode. Till then, Fide Serratio.